Ugh, I don't like much of that hand. Oh, and that's even worse somehow. Yeah, we're going to have to mulligan again. Oh, yeah, this is the best we can do apparently, so we will mulligan, put the Elishnorn on the bottom, and yeah, there we go. Put Elishnorn on the bottom, and we will get cracking. Decided to finally make that deck of Ghave, Guru of Spores. It's not Saproling Tribal or anything like that, it's just general token overrun shenanigans. And there's a couple of combos thrown in there for good measure as well. Okay, managed to draw into a Wrath of God. What do we want to get down? We'll just start off with a tap land and pass over. We're not going to be doing anything anytime soon. Sidisi getting down a turn 1 play with the Birds of Paradise. The first play of the game, and the Trostani player started off with a tap land. That's the hideaway land that they need 10 or more power on the board for in order to cheat something out. Now it looks like there's a turn 2 play coming out from Trostani. Nope, just tapping out and passing, so a pretty slow one to start off. We'll get down our Verdant Catacombs and get another land into play. Probably just a tap land because we don't really care about what we play currently. We don't actually have anything to play. So we'll just pass it over to the Sidisi player. Alright, just another Mana Dork and a Terramorphic Expanse for Sidisi, so we may well see that commander next turn. Let's have a look and see if Kynaios can do anything. Nope, just playing a land and tapping out again. An Eldrazi Displacer for the Trostani player. So it's likely that they will have creatures that come in with tokens, Avenger of Zendikar and the like, which is probably what that's for. They can use it to protect their commander as well, so it is a pretty versatile creature. It's just not something that I often see in Trostani. We just don't want to look like any kind of threat to our opponents, and if they want to play out a bunch of creatures into a Wrath of God, then that is good for us. And yeah, like we said, Sidisi is coming down. When it enters and when it attacks, they mill 3. And if they have 1 or more creatures hit the bin, they get a zombie. So that's self-mill, reanimation kind of strategies that you would expect in a self-mill Sultai deck. And Kynaios still isn't casting any spells. They've just tapped out for 3. Oh no, they are going for a Harrow. Thought they were just tapping out there. A Harrow will get them into a couple of lands after they've sacrificed 1. And then going for their second spell, a Luminarch Ascension. That is going to get them into Angel tokens if no one swings into them. We need to keep the quest counters off of that thing by dealing damage to them, but currently we are not in a position to do that. The Eldrazi Displacer notices that and goes straight in at them. So they will not get a quest counter during this turn, but they will get one during ours, because we're not going to be swinging into them. Now, do we want to go for a Grave Pact, or... Yeah, I don't think we want to Wrath of God yet, because we want our opponents to swing into the Kynaios. Yeah, if it gets a player out of the game almost, thanks to the Luminarch Ascension, if it has everyone concentrate on them, then that's alright. We don't have any creatures in play, so people shouldn't feel too threatened by that, but yeah, some people do get tunnel vision sometimes. They see a card they don't like and they go for the player that's in control of that card. So we'll see what happens. A Solemn Simulacrum gets into more lands, or another land. And then Sidisi swinging in at the Ascension player, which makes complete sense. And Kynaios with a Sphere of Safety. So this might be some kind of 4-colour Enchantress build. Or maybe it's a specific prison deck. Oh, and also, Sidisi got out a Hermit Druid. Reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a basic land. Put that card into your hand and all the other ones go into the graveyard. For 1 and tap on a 2-mana creature. Yeah, especially if you run very few basics, you can really fill up your graveyard with that card. Yeah, it's probably one of the best ways to fill up your graveyard is a Hermit Druid. That went through really quickly. What was that? Oh, that was a Return to Dust on the Ascension and the Grave Pact. Yeah, Grave Pact is an issue. Wouldn't have thought it would be too much of an issue against a token player that Trostani is. I think I might have gone for the Sphere of Safety over the Grave Pact, to be honest, but there's an argument to be made for Grave Pact. It is a real pain to play with. There's nothing else for us to do but try and have Ghave come out and survive. Preferably we want to play Ghave with a mana open so we can at least sacrifice it in response to things. But we don't have anything else to do, so we'll just play it out now. And immediately activating the Hermit Druid to fill up the graveyard. Sidisi will get some zombie tokens into play from seeing creatures hit the bin. And I thought the Hermit Druid would trigger at once and put all the cards in the bin at once, so Sidisi should see 1 or more creatures go into the graveyard and therefore only get 1 zombie. I didn't think they got zombies per creature that hit the bin. I don't know, maybe I'm missing something there. Alright, looks like we've got a friend of the channel in Perdido 0509. So hello to you if you're watching. Like I said in the chat just now, this is a test run of this deck. Well, if you're seeing this, then I obviously have deemed it good enough to upload, but I've actually had no intention of uploading this game, so I haven't actually presented it as though it's a real game, but I record anyway and just chat away to myself just in case we actually get a good game during testing. So if this is subpar compared to other gameplays that I release, then I apologise for that. Oh, and they've snuck down a Splinter Fright as well. That has power and toughness equal to the number of creatures in your graveyard. Yeah, so the more self-mill they get, the better that's going to become. Just a Rock's Faith Mender for Sidisi. That will double the life that they gain. But they haven't really gotten into much token production yet, so I don't know how much we have to worry about that. We get into a Smothering Tithe, which is really good, so let's get that down straight away. And we'll hold back the Ghave. No one seems to want to swing into us with a 5/5 in play. And at least we can get some counters off of Ghave and make some Saproling tokens if we want to. The Splinter Fright triggers at the beginning of Sidisi's turn. That will mill them some cards. And Sidisi sees a creature hit the bin, so that gets them another zombie token. And then they have dredged out the Stinkweed Imp and are now playing it, so that will make them difficult to swing into. Yeah, they've got a whole heap of stuff in the graveyard now. Another dredge card. We definitely want to see a board wipe now. The Sidisi is going in at Kynaios again. And then some zombies are going to come into the red zone to play as well. They are all going at the Selesnya player. Nothing coming in at us yet. Nope, we're getting the Splinter Fright. And Sidisi swinging in does mill 3 cards, so we'll see if they get any more zombie tokens. We're just going to take the hit here. I assume everyone is. Nope, the Eldrazi Displacer is going to jump in the way of at least one of the zombies. Yeah, they should be blocking with everything here. They could gain some nice life with the Rock's Faith Mender. That does have lifelink. We'll just take the hit. We don't want to lose Ghave. And it does have trample, so there's no point blocking it with a Saproling. They paid into our Smothering Tithe as well, so we don't have a treasure token yet. And that's what they were holding up. Kynaios is going to hardcast a Gush to draw some cards. And they will not have the mana to pay for Smothering Tithe. We'll get a treasure token every time someone draws, unless they want to pay 2. Now let's see if they want to pay at the beginning of their turn when they draw. Yeah, they're paying for it. So that is 2 less mana that they get to use on their turn. I always recommend people paying into the Rhystic Study, but I actually hardly ever pay into the Smothering Tithe. Getting down a Kalni Heart Expedition now. Maybe they didn't have anything to do with all that mana and this is the only spell they wanted to cast, in which case they might as well pay for the Smothering Tithe. And then, yeah, this is definitely some kind of Enchantress prison deck of some kind, because now we are seeing a Blind Obedience. That will make our creatures and artifacts come into play tapped. Phyrexian Processor. Yeah, well, if you're going to gain a lot of life, then putting a lot of life into the Phyrexian Processor makes sense. Especially if you can keep Trostani in play, because let's say you put 10 life into that thing and then tap it down and make a 10-10. Trostani will just gain you the 10 life straight back. So it's kind of like you got a free 10-10 creature, and then you're just gaining life for the rest of the game for as long as you can keep those 2 cards in play. So yeah, that's a good include by our opponent. I think they put 8 life into that. Were they at 48 before? Noteworthy that they did not pay for the Smothering Tithe, so we end the cycle with 3 treasure tokens. Now, let's start making some Saprolings. We'll remove some plus counters from Ghave to make Saprolings. And they do enter tapped with the Blind Obedience, hence the reason we're doing this. I want them to become untapped at the beginning of our turn. And then we can block with them. Oh, there's a draw. Craterhoof Behemoth. Could we take someone out of the game with that? It would be nice to be able to get down Liliana and then Wrath of God, but we don't have the mana for that, unfortunately. Yeah, let's just go for the Camaraderie. Speaking of card draw, we'll draw cards and gain life equal to the creatures that we control. And then we'll still be able to hold up mana to mess around with Ghave as well. Alright, managed to land that, that's good. We've got some good cards in hand now. I quite like that Mirari's Wake, but yeah, we don't have... We'll be alright after we've gotten down Mirari's Wake. I wonder if we can cast Zendikar's Resurgence and then Mirari's Wake. Yeah, I have to think about that. Activating the Heritage Druid again. And getting some more Sidisi triggers. And at the end of our turn, we will have to discard a card. We'll just get rid of the Filter Land. Beginning of the turn, Splinterfright mills again. Let's see how many zombies they get. It only mills 2, but they seem to have a lot of creatures in the deck. Paying for the Smothering Tithe again. And then going straight into combat. Well, they are really gunning for us. All those zombies are coming in at us. And the Sidisi is going in at the Kynaios, but we are... Yeah, we're getting punished the most here. Luckily, we have some chump blockers to get going, but I'd rather keep those in play, to be honest, because they're really good with the Craterhoof, but I don't think we can take that much damage. So we're going to have to chump here. Oh, the Splinterfright is coming into the red zone as well. That's going in at Trostani. And they are blocking with everything there. So we'll see what Trostani loses in that little bout. But everything else is coming in at us. We'll just have to take some damage from the zombies here. I think that's 14 points of damage we'll be taking from the zombies. 7 2/2 zombies are hitting us at my count. Now, in response to blocks, I will sacrifice a Saproling and put a plus counter on Ghave. And then we'll do that again to put another plus counter on Ghave. We get another treasure token at the beginning of the turn, but it's not worthy. It comes in tapped, so we can't sacrifice it. We do have to tap and sacrifice to make use of those. That's the subtle difference between treasure and gold tokens. Not doing anything again. Hasn't been the flashiest game from Kynaios. Yeah, as I thought, the Selesnya player doesn't have too much mana, so they do give us a treasure token. And going for the board wipe, that's really good, because it means that we get to keep our Wrath of God. And Sidisi loses a hell of a lot of cards there. But they may have Mass Reanimation in the deck. Solemn Dying causes the Sidisi player to draw a card. We'll see if they want to pay into the Smothering Tithe or not. They do decide to pay for that, so that is one less treasure token that we could get. Then it's back round to our turn. The game has been slowed down significantly here, so let's see if we can get our mana doubled up here. We'll go in straight for the Mirari's Wake. And that leaves us with 10 open mana. So now that the board's been wiped, I think we're safe to go for Liliana. And we can start getting some zombie tokens into play. And we'll try and get up to that limit break if we can. She's mainly in here for whenever one of our creatures dies, we draw a card. Because we have like aristocrat combo shenanigans and stuff like that in the deck, plus there's going to be plenty of tokens being sacrificed. But there's nothing to say that we couldn't sneak our way up to that limit break as well, which would have all of our opponents sacrifice pretty much all of their permanents. Might as well sneak down the Signet as well and pass over to our opponent. Genesis is in Sidisi's graveyard, so they can pay 3 to return a creature from graveyard to hand. And they are doing that on the Golgari Thug. Well, they're targeting with the Genesis onto the Golgari Thug. I don't know if they're actually paying for it. No, it doesn't look like they're paying for that, so they are not grabbing the Golgari Thug out of the graveyard. Paying into the Smothering Tithe again. The Sidisi player's been really good for that. Oh, Eternal Witness. What can they grab with an Eternal Witness? I'm sure there's something frightening in the graveyard we don't want to see. Yep, there sure is. Eternal Witness is aimed at Rise of the Dark Realms. A Rex Sage comes down as well. I bet that is pointed straight at the Mirari's Wake. Yep, it sure is. At least we have Zendikar Resurgence in hand, but I'd very much like to keep the Mirari's Wake in play. Kynaios also paying into the Smothering Tithe. Let's see if they do anything this turn. They've passed straight through their turn quite a lot this game. Deciding to get down their commander. So at the beginning of the end step they will draw a card, and then each player can put a land from hand onto the battlefield. And if they don't, they get to draw a card instead. Kynaios tends to be a group hug type deck. I don't think I've seen an Enchantress/Prison version of it before. We do not have a land to put into play, so we will draw a card. And everyone else drawing a card triggers the Smothering Tithe, and everyone's tapped out pretty much, so we are going to get some treasure tokens here. We draw into Field of the Dead, which is switched on. Let's go in for the Zendikar Resurgence. And we'll also go for this Evolution Sage. I've been wanting to play this card for a long time and it keeps getting cut from my decks, but in this deck it's a really good include. Has Landfall Proliferate. We draw a card with the Zendikar Resurgence, get into another combo piece with Ashnod's Altar. Now we'll start playing lands. We'll get a zombie token from the Field of the Dead and Proliferate with the Evolution Sage. That will just put a counter onto Liliana. And then we will crack this fetch for another Proliferate onto Liliana. And because we haven't activated one of her loyalty abilities yet, we can minus her down. And we'll get that limit break off. Can't say I've ever seen this limit break before. Each opponent chooses a permanent they control for each permanent type and sacrifices the rest. That does include lands, so we've pretty much wiped lands off the table here. And that's enough for the Sidisi opponent. They decide to scoop it up, which is fair enough. If they don't have any lands, then, like I say, that's fair enough. Let's tutor with the demonic tutor. And we'll grab ourselves a skull clamp because drawing some cards will be really good with all this mana. Let's just put it onto the zombie. We can play the Ashnod's Altar next turn and start sacrificing those with the skull clamp equipped. And the beauty is that because our opponents are struggling for lands, they're not going to be able to pay into Smothering Tithe, so that's even more mana for us, as if we didn't have enough. Now, I'm wondering, with these zombies in play, if we can keep hitting lands, it might be worth a Crater Hoof win. Yeah, we'll see what we get into anyway. A tap land for the Selesnya player, and probably just passing straight over. Good for them for playing this out. Well, that probably seals it for the Trostani player at least, and Aura Shards. Let's go in for our commander so that we can start creating lots of tokens and maybe going in for a Crater Hoof win. Draw a card from the Resurgent, because we cast a creature spell. And our opponent sacrificed the enchantment to grab a couple of planes. That tells me that they are looking for a board wipe here, which wouldn't be that bad for us. We can rebuild really easily thanks to the distinct lack of mana that our opponents have. But we still don't really want that to happen, preferably, so let's get down this Aura Shards. Alright, in response, a Path to Exile on the Ghave. Now then, how can we do this? I want to go for Champion of Lambholt and Crater Hoof this turn, so let's just work out the mana and see how many times we can activate Ghave in response to this. Alright, I work it out as being able to activate Ghave twice and make a couple of saprolings, so hopefully I'm not miscalculating there. Have to make sure not to use any green mana as well. We need as much green as possible. Make a couple of saprolings, allow Ghave to be exiled to the Path to Exile. Grab ourselves a basic. That will trigger the Field of the Dead again, and we will get to proliferate. We don't have any counters, so we can't make use of that, unfortunately. We will be able to once the Champion of Lambholt comes out. And now the Aura Shards is in play. We'll be able to start blowing up enchantments and artifacts on creatures entry. So we will point that at the Mirari's Wake. And then hopefully we'll be able to finish things off with this Crater Hoof Behemoth. +1/+1 to all creatures per the number of creatures that are in play. And thanks to Champion of Lambholt, our opponent won't be able to block with their commander. Alright, we've drawn into a land off the Resurgent there. I don't want to mess around too much, but just to help ensure victory, we will play the land, and that will tap for 2 mana for the Lightning Greaves. And then let's play out the Lightning Greaves. We will equip that to the Champion of Lambholt, and that should help us push through enough damage for the victory. Yeah, we'll have the zombies go in at the Selesnya player, and then the Champion of Lambholt and the Crater Hoof can go in at Kynaios, and the Evolution Sage can go in at the Trostani as well. And that should be that. It's a good game to our opponents. And a big thank you for them playing that out, because it does mean that I can show all of you this Ghave deck. And it says a lot about players as well when they play it out. They don't just scoop to their lands being blown up. Absolutely nothing against anyone that scoops to their lands being blown up. It's fair enough, because you're not likely to come back from that, but it does say a lot about people that will continue to play even after something like that happens. So a big thank you to the people that I was playing against there. It was a good game. And a big thank you to you for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. I'm tribalkai on the EDH channel. Thank you for watching.